Welcome to session number 3. We'll be busy with industrial systems, which is unit number 5. Again, I will emphasize the specific objectives. You should be able to know them. Be able to classify industries into primary, secondary, and tertiary activities. The second one, you should be able to describe the factors that influence the location of an industry in general, like for instance, looking at raw materials, the labor, at the market, at the capital which is available, the transportation, and the siting factors. So I will not indulge into them. You have them in the notes. Do go through, please. Again, types of industries. When we are talking about industries in geography, we need to look at it as a system as well. Now, in the previous topic, I talked about farming as a system. Now, industries, we look at it as a system in terms of the input, the processes, and the output. The same diagram that I used from the previous topic. So, if you look at the raw materials, for instance, as a physical input, you will get, for instance, through the process of cultivating your seeds, you are able to get or to harvest mahangu, which is an output. So this is a system that you need to look at the industrial processes. Great. Moving on, we have 3 types of industries. Number 1, which is the primary industry. The primary industry involves economic activities that has to do with the extraction of raw materials from nature or from the land, and then taking these raw materials, undergoing through a process, and then you able to get an output or a product. Now, the primary sector, which falls under the primary industries, is divided into the mining, is divided into forestry, is divided into agriculture and fishing. Now, you should be able to know that primary sector is divided into these different components. Now, for each, you should be able to give an example. You should be able to give an example of a mining sector, for instance, in Namibia. Agricultural sector, what type of agricultural sector do we have in Namibia or do we use in Namibia? Forestry, how is our forestry regulated? If you look at the 2 Kavango regions, Kavango West, Kavango East, the Caprivi regions, I think they are busy with the production of timber. So how is that one regulated? Such things, we need to look at them. Number 2, the secondary industries, it uses the raw materials in the processes to manufacture them into finished products or finished goods and services. And then tertiary industries, these are the ones that provides and render services or to that render services and goods to other industries and to the clients. So when we talk about the tertiary industry, you talk about innovation, you talk about research, you talk about technology. Those are all examples. So what are these factors that then influences a location? In terms of the industry, for an industry to be established, what factors influences that location to be established within that location? Number 1, you need to look at the capital. You should be able to have a large amount of money which is needed to develop and run the industry. You need to be close, or that industry needs to be close to the raw materials so that it's able to access bulk raw materials at a lower price. The third thing is transportation. You need to know, that one is clear. An efficient transportation network, very important. The market, definitely you cannot have an industry which is isolated like a farm, far from the entire market. Your industry should be located closer to the market. This reduces your transportation cost, for instance. It reduces your labor. The cost of labor, it reduces that as well. The next one, number 5, if we look here, in our explanations, is labor. Labor has to do with, now, you need to consider between your skilled labor versus your unskilled and your semi-skilled. So if you're having an industry, you need to know that what type of labor do you need? Do you need a skilled labor, or do you need semi-skilled or unskilled? And then the industry needs to be in proximity, in close range within where you are able to access that type of labor which the industry may require. Good. Other factors that may include, it may be also government policy, as you are all aware. Some government policies do not allow for the establishment and growth of industries. They hamper, maybe for instance with high tax, for instance, for establishment. So industries are not able to grow. Ability to access land and the siting factor. Remember the siting factor? Siting, I talked about when you say siting is the exact location of a place. What determines that exact location of a place? Is it south of the river, which is readily close and on a flat land? For instance, that's a site. And then also the situation, how is that area like in relation to the surrounding, in relation to its surrounding? Good. Moving on, so this is just a diagram that explains how an industry can be able to grow. It should be able to be close to, if you see the tractor down there, it should be able to be closer to the efficient transportation market. It should be able to produce a variety. It should be closer to the market, and you should be able to examine and come up with some answers. The role of the fishing industry in the Namibian economy. Number one, the fishing industry is very important, as you're all aware. It creates employment, one of the highest contributors sector of the economy. Food security, it ensures food security. We are able to get the food that we need from the ocean. Not only fish, there are many other variety which we may be able to get. Export, it generates foreign currency through our export, which leads to our GDP. Looking at the next slide, which is about the fishing and its corruption, anarchy. So very interesting. I dropped a picture of the big five here, which I always like to emphasize that, once we have corruption as a pandemic, and then the growth of that sector will not go forward at all. The growth of that sector will not go forward at all. So considering since the independence, what the fishing sector was able to contribute, if you look at this corruption, it definitely tells that it could have contributed way more than this. Okay, factors that influences the availability of raw materials is the ocean currents, which is cold water that carries more oxygen and thus more fishes, upwelling, the upbringing of nutrients, the marine food chains, and the length of coastlines. So these are the factors that influence the availability of raw materials. Exploitations of fish resources. We have three types of fish resources, which is the two types of fish resources, which is the pelagic fish, which are found in the middle section of the ocean. And then we have the demersal fish, which are usually found on the seabed and feed on the bottom living organisms. You should be able to know these two types of fish and the fishing methods which are involved, which is the trolling and the piercing fishing method. For today, we will end here.